Yesterday, the action heated up at the Santos Tour Down Under. Look at the speed of Greipel as he goes over them all. It was a mad dash to the finish as the riders went full throttle to the line. Greipel has come through from the left and taken it on the line. That was an incredible sprint. Stage 2 of the Santos Tour Down Under is next on Versus. Hello everyone and welcome to the Epic Cycle presented by Michelob Ultra. And it's the town of Gawler in the Barossa Valley who will flag off the riders today, 133 kilometres heading towards Hahndorf on stage 2 of the Santos Tour Down Under. I'm Phil Liggett. Alongside me is Paul Sherwin. Another hot and warm day, Lance Armstrong making ready.
And a very rough day as the riders get themselves down to the finish. A local boy actually from this town is Jack Bobridge. He'd be looking to do something special.
Having a final drink, Martin Cooler wearing the Best Young Riders colours after yesterday's stage, and the leader after winning stage 1, Andre Greipel. This is what happened, Paul, as they came into the finish in Tanunda yesterday.
Well, you talk about an express train. That's the way to win a sprint, by a clear 1.5 bicycle lengths up front ahead of everybody else. Just watch how quickly Greipel opens up the sprint on the right-hand side there. You can see him digging deep, looking across, judging the acceleration he needs and requires to get himself stage victory number 1.
But it wasn't all plain sailing at the feeding station. Just look at that crash right in the middle. A Ryle eroding from case to palm there. Nobody else falling off. Cadel Evans narrowly missing it too. But everybody was okay. There was also a much more serious crash right out at the start of the day when some 30 riders did fall. But all of the injured riders seemingly are okay.
Well, those are the kind of accidents that happen almost every day on a race like the Santos Tour Down Under. Those are the injuries from yesterday, but it means he's got to get up and fight again today. Everybody realising it's going to be a long, hard, fast day in the saddle, 133 kilometres, and a chance for everybody to try and get a signature from the current reigning world champion.
Yes, Cadel Evans here, wearing the rainbow jersey colours of the world champion. All of the riders making sure they sign in. And there, alongside the Premier of South Australia, Mike Grant, here comes the Prime Minister of Australia, Kevin Rudd, to meet, first of all, Lance Armstrong and also Cadel Evans. Right, let's see what Andre Greipel has to say to Paul Sherwin.
Having the leader's ochre jersey on your shoulders, is that going to make any difference to the way the race unfolds? Are the team going to defend it, or will you look for help from other teams as well to chase down breakaways?
Of course, it's not just our team who rides here, and yeah, it would be nice to find some help. Yesterday we had just the help from Robin McEwen's team and a little bit from Sky, but yeah, I mean, it's early in the season, so normally the other teams should go for the win as well.
As a kid, did you ever expect to be standing here racing for a Pro Tour team?
You know, it's always been a dream and a goal, but you don't, back then you wouldn't think of it. But to be here today, with Garmin Transitions starting in my hometown is going to be an awesome thrill, awesome feeling.
Yes, and Jack Bobridge there. I was talking to his mum just before the start, and she'll wave him on his way today, heading from Gawler to Hahndorf, 133.5 kilometres, 2 popular towns along the route over the years. Undulations here, heavy roads, we'll get to Checker Hill, and once over that we're down through Mount Torrens where there's a Jayco sprint, and onwards to the finish in Hahndorf.
2, 1...
And there's the start, Kevin Rudd firing the gun as the riders now move away. There's a sharp right as they leave town. They'll be on the metal today, Paul, because 13 kilometres after the start is Linddoch, the first Jayco sprint of the day.
Could be why Andre Greipel was riding right at the front end of the main field there. The neutralised flag being brought in, and immediately attacks coming thick and fast. No surprise again to see Team Uni SA. They really are the aggressive team of the Santos Tour Down Under.
Well, just look at this. They had 3 riders on the front there on the rollout. They've released 1. No reaction from the field. This is David Kemp. He was the last call-up to the team. He got the vacant spot, which was reserved for the new Australian champion. but he was second in that race. The Australian champion wasn't riding anyway, he was on a Pro Tour team. So David's getting his ride now. I'm going to show us his colours.
I just saw a quick glimpse of another rider, in fact 2 riders coming across the gap here. In fact, these 2 riders are both from the same team. That's the Omega Lotto squad. They're both trying to get across the gap, and strangely enough it's number 31 and number 32, both teammates. The man in the first position there in fact is Kaiser, and just behind him is Michael Delage.
Yes, well, they've also planned a move here, both on the same team. Very unusual to see 2 riders on the same squad get away from the field, but the manager of this team, Hendrik Redant himself, once a great racing cyclist, held the record for the fastest one-day classic in the world a few years back from Paris to Tours. He's in the car behind. He's got his 2 young charges in the car, in the bunch up here. 24 years old, Michael Delage, been around a while, as he now starts to drive on. Interesting to see that the peloton is settling down. Marcel Seeberg of HTC Columbia. Remember, this is the team of Greipel, and as you know, Paul, it's now up to the teammates to look after the race leader in the ochre jersey.
Well, it's not surprising at all to see them controlling the pace at the front end of the main field, because they know they've probably got the fastest man in the event, but they're not controlling it to perfection, because there's 1 or 2 little teams trying to scurry off the front of the main field. That was a quick move by one of the quick-step riders there, and it looks as if that was Thomas Kvist.
Yes, it was indeed. And the Quick-Step team have got no big noted name in this group, but they're trying to put a man away here to join the leaders. In the opening hour of racing, in professional racing, they try to get these groups clear. But if you missed the train, then I'm afraid you've missed the train. These boys are not interested at the moment. They've assessed the strength of that breakaway of 3. All 3 riders out in front lost over 8 minutes yesterday, so they could be in for a hot day under the sun. No reason to chase yet.
Well, there's no easy days on any of these stages, especially with the heat that the riders are starting to face for the first time. For the first time since the race started, it's time to creep above 30 degrees Celsius. In fact, the temperature just tipping 31 degrees. They are cooperating together very well though here, Phil, and they're going to start to build themselves up a massive gap, I would say, because there's no major reaction at the front end of the main field.
Hasn't started yet though. This is Lindok. They've got a lead of 1.5 minutes on the field just now. Little discussion going on there, and in fact they're deciding that it's Delage who takes the lead, and no reaction from Kemp. He's got to be careful. He's a little bit outnumbered just now, 2-1, but for the moment the common enemy is the peloton. These guys need to work together.
Well, they are working together. In fact, the gap is starting to creep up rather dramatically, because there's still no reaction at the front end of the main field, although I have to say HTC Columbia are being very attentive, always keeping 1 or 2 riders near the front end of the frame.
But with 120 kilometres to go, the power is off in the peloton, and the gap is now up 3 minutes and 8 seconds. It's a scorcher out on the roads today of South Australia as the riders try to pace themselves through the heat. We'll take a break and be right back. Well, Delage, Kaizen and Kemp built a lead of over 11.5 minutes, Paul, but it's coming down now, 6:24 here. That shot up around the 33 kilometre point, but I think the field now have decided, with Chequer Hill on the horizon, it's time to bring them back.
Well, I think just looking at the anger in the main field there, you get an indication of just how fast the peloton is going. These are the 3 leaders, and they're now not too very far away from Chequer Hill, and that I think is going to give them a little bit of a shock, because they've been riding using their biggest gears on the flat part of the course so far. Now all of a sudden they're going to go right the other way to the end of the cluster.
Well, we're not far from the commencement of the climb of Chequer Hill, and those 3 riders still holding on to a reasonable advantage. They should still be clear over the top, but once over the top, it's just about 44 kilometres to the finish. Kaizen at the front here, stage winning the Tour of Turkey last year, 26 years of age, and now stamping on the pedals is David Kemp. Well, he's in the breakaway, yes, and he's on the Uni SA team. Now, yesterday it was Tim Rowe who claimed the first climb and the leader's jersey in the Skoda competition. So I think it's reasonable to think now that David Kemp is protecting that for him.
Well, actually, Phil, here we're looking at a separation of around about only 1 kilometre between the leading group of 3 riders and the main field. So there's probably not very much more than 2 to 2.5 minutes distance between them on the actual open road.
Well, this is the Russian team member there, Horac, trying to tempt them to come out to play from the peloton. David Kemp has got rid of the other 2 on the climb. It's a really steep climb, this, and although the camera doesn't quite show it yet, believe me, there are an enormous amount of people on this climb. There we are.
Well, just looking at his cadence here, Phil, it gives you an indication of just how steep this climb is. He's dispatched the other 2 riders with him. Now, I think tactically it would be a lot more intelligent once he gets over the top of the climb to wait for those 2 riders, because if they want to have any chance at all of survival, they still need 3 men men working together to stay in front of the main peloton.
Well, thanks to the farmer who's got all of the cars of the spectators now, making the road reasonably clear here. There'll be a big cheer for David Kemp. He does come from Queensland originally. I think he lives over in Victoria now with his wife. But he's now here in South Australia and flying the flag for UniSA. He goes over the top. Maximum points for him as the Skoda King of the Mountains winner to date. These two boys are going to go over in second and third.
Well, I think, Phil, just to mention about UniSA, I think it's very important to note that it was, I think, a good decision by the International Cycling Union to allow the international teams to take part in events like this, and the national team really of UniSA is representing Australia here.
That's right, this is the race for the fourth place points here. It looks like Finetto is just going to take it out for Liquigas. He's a pretty good sprinter, this rider, but he's coming away on a steep climb to get fourth place, and the clock is indicating about 3 3/4 minutes since Kemp went over the summit. So still got a good lead, but still 44 kilometres to race, unfortunately.
Well, these guys have got fourth and fifth place. They're going to sit up and wait for the rest of the main field, who are now just coming through the summit of the climb.
While out on the open highway, the race is on to bring back these three, and it's down now, Paul, to 1:35.
It's a controllable distance now for the main field. I think we'll start to see the teams of the sprinters try and pull those three riders back into the fold at around about 10 to 15 kilometres to go to the finish. But it is interesting to note that it's a number of teams doing the pacemaking at the front. Radio Shack were there, of course, for Stegmans. Not surprising at all to see in the group as well riders from HTC. A little split at the front here because this is Kaiser and he's going backwards. That's going to leave just two riders now at the front end of the main field. But I think it's pretty much curtains for these two guys. They are now not very much more than around about 50 seconds in front of the main field.
Well, I'm pretty sure when they got clear and got 11.5 minutes, they thought they could win this race today, because they lost 8 minutes yesterday and they thought the bunch might not hunt them down. But Horrocks and Katusha is Robbie McEwen's team, are working hard now to close it down. Just two riders left up front, but they're coming in pretty quickly now. It's been a good attack here too by Michael Delage. His only win as a pro, a stage of the Tour de l'Avenir, a French race in 2006, but he did finish fourth overall in the Tour Down Under 2 years ago.
Getting himself maximum points there, but it's not really all that important. He lost himself more than 8 minutes yesterday. But for these two riders, they'll have to continue to work together just to prolong the agony of being caught by the main pack.
So pacemaking now nice and steady. The teams with sprint winners potentially on their squads are now beginning to work at the front. Mount Torrens is now behind the race. Next up is the big sprint in Hahndorf. Well, normally when you see 10 kilometres to go and you're in front, you'll feel good, but I'm afraid the riders have looked round and the big pack are right behind them, so there is now virtually no one in front.
No, it's all going to come back together right on schedule for the teams of the sprinters, and they've got to keep the pace nice and high now, because it's at the moment when you catch a breakaway group like this, Phil, we're now looking at around about 9 kilometres to go to the finish, that a few other brave riders will try and outwit the sprinters on the run into Hahndorf.
Again, although the peloton is larger than it was yesterday, they've shed about 30 riders on the climb of Checker Hill. And now we've got Astana trying to work something for Alan Davis here, last year's overall champion. And right behind the Radio Shack team, looking to probably try and guide Gert Stegmans to the line as well.
Well, those are the riders in red right down through the middle, but they're actually starting to get swamped a fraction there. Over on the left-hand side, you can see another team trying to organise themselves. All of the sprinters now getting extremely nervous.
This is when they reshuffle. They try to locate the sprinter down there in the big field and drag him to the front.
You might just have noticed the orange jerseys over to the left-hand side. That's Graham Brown's Rabobank riders trying to look after Brownie. In the middle, you've got the dark black and blue jerseys of Team Sky. They'll be looking after Greg Henderson. Another organisation over on the right, you've got Team Radio Shack looking for their man, Gert Stegmans. This is the moment when you dare not touch your brakes, because if you do, you'll slide back through that main field and you'll have to find your way back up again. Cadell Evans, number 21 there, happily ensconced, Phil, in the main field. I don't think he's too worried about fighting with the sprinters in the last 200 or 300 metres.
And just in behind Cadell was 187. That's David Kemp, who was caught and picked up on just over Checker Hill. 5 kilometres to go now. It's not often you see this, Paul, is it? Not just one team lining up to rip the field apart. We've got probably 5 teams here who all believe they can bring the sprinter to the line.
Well, that's what they've got to do. They've got to go through the motion of getting this tempo, getting this train at the front end of the main field to make sure that their sprinter doesn't get swamped. Over on the right-hand side, just biding their time, you can see the yellow helmets. That's HTC Columbia. They'll be waiting to take over control of the front end of the main field if any of the other teams start to falter and find that their sprinter is all of a sudden getting swamped.
Well, a big push through on the inside now as the riders from HTC Columbia try to break in. Little bit of disarray and a scrabble by the riders from Team Sky as they move to the right of the road. Graham Brown's Rabobank team in the orange still dead centre.
Well, there you can see Greipel's team there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 riders from HTC Columbia waiting to launch their man into the front of the pack. He's just down at the bottom left-hand side there. You can see in the ochre jersey of leadership, little bit of disorganisation coming back to HTC. It's still Team Sky on the front end of the main field. They want to try and get their man Greg Henderson right to the front of the pack. They've just turned off the main road here, Phil. Now, this could cause a little bit of a disturbance for the sprinters. There's a crash there. In fact, somebody went down just going around that corner. There's a rider down from AG2R, a rider from Liquigas, but that was halfway down the main field. I don't think that's going to affect the sprinters.
Peter Sagan, one of the breakaway heroes of yesterday, left behind in the bustle for the top. Once they made that turn, it's uphill now, and it's not an easy approach for the sprinters. They've got to be very, very strong to hold them in play here. Michael Rogers, a former winner, driving on now.
Well, all Mick Rogers is thinking about here is keeping the pace nice and high, keeping his men at the front end of the main field. But in the second row, again, big organisation for the new American team, Radio Shack. They really are, Phil, looking for the victory in this bike race. Over the summit of this small climb now, they'll drop down into the outskirts of Hahndorf, a left-hand turn, then right in front of them, a 1.5 kilometre straight dash to the line.
Time for a quick break on the Epic Cycle presented by Michelob Ultra. Welcome back to the Epic Cycle presented by Michelob Ultra and the 12th edition of the Santos Tour Down Under. Like yesterday in Tanunda, the finish in Hahndorf is a sprinter's delight. Alan Davis has won here before, so too has Andre Greipel, so they both know where they're heading now. This is a very tricky section just here. Doesn't look like it from the sky. It's narrow and it's very twisty before they make a sharp left turn.
Well, believe it or not, the faster you make it at the front end of the main field, the safer it is for your sprinters, because it keeps the main field stretched out into that big long line that you can see. Now they're making that sweeping left-hand bend a long way up the road in front of them in the distance. They should be able to see the finish line. Radio Shack over on the right-hand side. Now the challenge coming from Team Sky. 1, 2, 3, 4 riders from Sky. The 5th rider in that line is going to be Greg Henderson.
Well, this is a terrific battle here now, but I don't see Gert Stegmans in the mix here as Sky is taken up. Stegmans is looking around to see what he can grab, and the answer is nothing at all, and no sign of Columbia either as we head up towards the line now. It is the team of Greg Henderson here who is hoping to grab a win as they start the move, but look at the rush on the left. This is the lead out now, and coming is Andre Greipel, still bouncing and waiting. It is a long way up towards the finishing line here, and Robbie Hunter on the left of our picture. The South African on Garmin is trying to break into the picture.
Oh, it's complicated now. You can see Graham Brown right in the middle, waiting for the moment for him to move as well. Greipel seems to have been boxed out on this one, Phil. He's got no men around him. There he is in about 4th or 5th position. Also, you can see Rojas moving up for Case d'Epargne.
Well, Rojas is the rider on the far right as Brown goes on the far left. As we look at the picture now, we go to the front. The man in ochre has popped out the woodwork and won again, and won so easily as well. 2 out of 2 for Andre Greipel, and that will increase his overall lead with the small bonuses.
Well, just look at this here, Phil. Greipel is nowhere to be seen. You can see Rojas starting the sprint there on the right-hand side. There on the left, you can see Greg Henderson looking to see whether he's got the acceleration. Then from nowhere, the door opens. The man in the ochre jersey sees the opening and kicks in with all of his might. And then all of a sudden, he's just opening and accelerating away from everybody else. Henderson 2nd, Robbie McEwen 3rd.
Well, there we are. That's the way to do it. In fact, that's the style of sprint we've often seen from Robbie McEwen. Has won 12 stages in history of this race. Greipel has now moved up to 7, and that has put him in 2nd place in history of stage wins in this event. And again, another clear win. Again, ahead of all the sprinters as well. Greipel getting in over Greg Henderson, Robbie McEwen, Robbie Hunter, and Graham Brown. Must have felt like a home win for the German as well here, because in German-founded Hahndorf, and again the team congratulating him.
Well, he's extending his lead in the overall classification there. You can see he's got a 14-second buffer now over Greg Henderson and 14 seconds over Gert Stegmans. But watch out for Robbie McEwen, who's moving up into 4th place, 16 seconds behind.
This has been a very good race so far. But the man in the hot seat for a third day will be Andre Greipel. It's a position he's been in before, and they couldn't move him then. So now we can look at the Michelob Ultra ride of the day, and I think today it should go to Andre Greipel, now the winner of the stages for the past 2 days, but again showing he is at the moment the strongest sprinter in the race. He waited for the waters to part, he catapulted out of the centre, and he won by a clear bike length. So Andre Greipel is Michelob Ultra's ride of the day. Well, that wraps it up for today's action. Be sure to tune in for more Santos Tour Down Under tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. It's the Epic Cycle presented by Michelob Ultra. And don't forget to catch Paul Sherwin's one-on-one with Lance Armstrong Saturday, January 23rd at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time. For a full cycling schedule, log on to our website at versus.com, and you can follow us on Twitter at VS Cycling. For Paul Sherwin, I'm Phil Liggett saying so long for now.